Good morning, Bengals fans, and welcome into Bengals Daily, part of the Fan Arch Podcast Network. My name is Dave Olson, and I'll be your host for this mock draft episode where we're going to dive through 4 rounds of drafting for the 2026 NFL Draft. We're going to go through just some example picks before the Bengals in each round, talk about how each of those picks would be good or would be bad for the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to then pick for the Bengals in that round. And then do the same thing for round 2, round 3, and round 4. Lots of things have been unfolding here in the last couple of days. The Dexter Lawrence rumors. I don't know if I would say there's more fuel in the fire, but there's not less. BJ Hill just tweeting out an emoji. Those two playing together in the past. I hesitate to read too much into NFL player emoji tweets. I don't want to get my heart too tied into anything. If you missed the last episode, we dove into why the Bengals should make that move for Dexter Lawrence, why the Bengals shouldn't make that move for Dexter Lawrence. At the end of the day, it's one of the best defensive interior linemen in the NFL, if not the best. If that move gets made, you'll be hard-pressed to find me upset about it. So let's talk about a fun fact on April 8th. I promise we're going to get into some football fun facts eventually. Unfortunately, because it's the offseason, we got a lot of baseball fun facts for Cincinnati. A generic baseball fun fact, April 8th, 1974, Hank Aaron hit his 715th career home run in Atlanta, that's where I'm based, breaking Babe Ruth's record that once was thought to be unbreakable. The Cincinnati connection in this fun fact, 4 days earlier, on opening day at Riverfront Stadium right here in Cincinnati, Aaron tied Ruth at 714 on his very first swing of the season off Reds pitcher Jack Billingham. Commissioner Bowie Kuhn actually tried to make Aaron sit out the Cincinnati series so he could break the record at home, but the MLB stepped in and said no. Cincinnati got to witness some baseball history that season back in 1974. So we'll be breaking the Dexter Lawrence news if it happens right here on Bengals Daily. If it doesn't happen, well, we're going to talk about maybe why it should have happened, especially if the price comes out and the price ends up being low. Folks around the league wondering if he's going to get a first-round pick. I'm sure that's what the Giants want. I've seen some scenarios of Bengals sending the 10th overall this year, as well as 2 and 3, and maybe one more depth player in exchange for Lawrence, and the 5th overall this year. So you're moving up in the first, but you're losing your second and your third, but you're gaining Dexter Lawrence. That could be an interesting package. Anyway, trade options flying around. And this seems to be real. It seems like Dexter Lawrence wants out of New York. So anyway, let's get into round 1 of this mock draft. Needless to say, Las Vegas Raiders taking Fernando Mendoza. This is good for the Bengals. Get a quarterback off the board. It's going to happen in essentially every mock draft that you see. New York Jets taking Arvell Reese. Needless to say, of course, we would love Reese to fall to the Bengals, but the odds of that happening slim to none. Of course, would be a Bengals target, but again, the odds just aren't there. Great move for the Jets here. I think a tone setter on the defensive side of the football. Stinks for the Bengals, removing some of those defensive targets, but it's going to happen. Cardinals are going to select Maui Goa at pick number 3 overall. We like this. Take some of the offensive-sided players off the table. Titans then at pick 4, taking Jeremiah Love. There's actually a world where I don't mind the Bengals taking Jeremiah Love. So for our purposes, for this draft, I don't hate it, but, I could see a world where Jeremiah Love's left around. Maybe the Bengals do a little bit more in free agency, and Jeremiah Love is still there. Maybe the Bengals pick him at 10. Won't be happening in this mock draft. However, New York Giants, who we've been talking about today, draft Sonny Styles at 5 overall. That one stings, man. I don't know if Sonny's going to fall to us at 10 on draft day. I think something like this is going to happen. I would love Sonny Styles to fall to the Bengals at 10 overall, but not to happen here in our mock draft. The Giants really need some run defense help. They just need defense help in general. If they're going to lose Dexter Lawrence, someone like Sonny Styles, though they play different positions, you're going to need someone dominating on the defensive side of the field that can run downhill and stop the runner. Pick number 6, Cleveland Browns select Carnell Tate. Not much lost here. Unfortunately, the Browns do get an offensive weapon, which the Browns need desperately. They have an elite defense, but not much going on offense. So from a season-long perspective, this kind of stinks. But from a draft perspective, this is good, as the Browns will not be taking a defensive target if the Bengals are going all in on defense. So Carnell Tate going to the Browns at 6 overall. Pick 7, the Commanders taking Ruben Bain. This one stings a little bit. Another Bengals target off the table. The Bengals still desperately in need of some additional pass rush help, especially if Shamar Stewart's not going to be coming along this year, as the coaches are hoping he will. Commanders definitely need some young edge rusher talent on their team. So not only mock draft wise, but actual draft wise, I wouldn't be surprised to see Bain going to the Commanders. Potentially David Bailey as well. New Orleans Saints are going to select Mansour Delane. That kind of stinks as well. Another target for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this is the run. Pick 5 and then 7, 8, 9. This is going to be gut punch. Okay, I imagine the Browns will go offense. Gut punch, gut punch, gut punch on draft night. We're going to have probably 4 Bengals targets fly off the board right in a row, right before our pick. And we're just going to have to weather the storm and assume that there's going to be some good talent still left on the board by the time we get to our draft picks. Ruben Bain, gone, as I said, at pick 7. Delane, gone to the Saints at 8. This one actually really hurts me. We haven't talked about him much. We'll talk about him a bit this week. David Bailey, edge for Texas Tech, off the board. I would have loved Bailey to fall to the Bengals at 10. Chiefs definitely need some pass rush help. And I think that Bailey is maybe the most athletic pass rusher here in this draft. The Chiefs get better, and I think a great target that the Bengals would have loved to have had at 10. Now gone. All right, so the Bengals now on the clock. Let's quickly recap. Mendoza at number 1, Arvell Reese number 2, Cardinals go Maui Goa, offensive tackle number 3, Jeremiah Love 4, Sonny Styles at number 5, Carnell Tate 6, Ruben Bain Jr. to the Commanders at 7, Delane to the Saints at 8, David Bailey to the Chiefs at 9. So who are some popular options here? Jermon McCoy, Caleb Downs, Peter Woods. I mean, a lot of mocks would probably have us going McCoy. Caleb Downs feels like a move here. You wonder though how the Bengals front office is feeling after picking up Kyle Duggar. You have Battle, Cook, Brian Cook, now Kyle Duggar. If you draft Downs, now Downs can play a variety of different positions. Duggar is a bit of a Swiss Army knife as well. I don't think that dissuades you from picking up Downs. Jermon McCoy though, God, that I mean, who else are you talking about? Fano, Caleb Banks, Avion Terrell. I haven't done a lot of mocks with God, I might get crucified. I'll take Downs. I mean, Downs is a trendsetter on defense. God, but cornerback help. This is why it's hard. I just got to make a choice and stick with it. You know what? I'm going to go against the current a little bit. I'm going to go against the current. I think my heart says take Downs here, but I'm just going to see how the draft plays out. No, because there's some good. Let's see if we can get a good cornerback target in round 2. Let's see if someone like Pons falls to us. So I'm going to pick Downs here at 10 overall. I love the pick, even though we picked up some safety help. I think he's versatile enough. You can play alongside Cook and Battle. Probably the best athlete, flex defensive player available at the time, and I think would be a stud on this Bengals defense. So some key targets in this mock draft going off the table before the next Bengals pick. Peter Woods gone, Cade McDonald's gone. That's unlucky. Peter Wood's unlikely to make it towards the Bengals' second pick. Same with Cade McDonald, would have been nice. Jermon McCoy gone. CJ Allen gone. Lee Hunter, Avion Terrell, Colton Hood all gone. So the Bengals pick 41 in round 2. I'm going to quickly run through these. Jets at pick 33. Snag Vega, the offensive guard out of Penn State. Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver out of USC, goes to the Cardinal at 34. Spencer Fano, wow, goes to Utah at pick 35. Jordan Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State, goes to the Giants at pick 36. I'm fine with all of these so far. Kendrick Falk to the Browns at pick 37. God, that's kind of brutal. I'm not huge in on Falk. If anything, I'm glad the Bengals don't take him in this scenario. Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech, that sucks. I think I would have been in on Lee Hunter just 3 picks later to the Commanders at pick 38. That would have been great for some interior line depth for the Bengals. Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. Bengals do potentially need some tight end help this year. That's worth thinking about. But still more needs on defense. Tight end is kind of a want in my book. And then the Chiefs select CJ Allen, linebacker out of Georgia at pick 40. So pick 41, still available. We've got Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker out of Texas Tech. I love that. Colton Hood, Brandon Cisse, Avion Terrell out of Clemson, if he somehow falls. I was hoping a linebacker would fall. I think I take Rodriguez here. Rodriguez is one of my favorite round 2 targets for the Cincinnati Bengals. He is a very strong gridiron graded player. You know I love the gridiron grading guys. 81.5, very strong on their board. One of the strongest strength of record there for them. 6'2", big linebacker. And he's got some great value, I think, in round 2. Somebody who can step in and make a difference in that linebacker room. I think if Demetrius Knight takes the steps that we saw at the end of last season, someone like Jacob Rodriguez could step in and replace Barrett Carter on the linebacker starting lineup, on the linebacker depth chart, and really shore up that side of the ball. So I think going Downs into Rodriguez, I love that 1-2 punch from the Bengals if the draft board unfolds this way. I'm lower, I think, on linebacker, meaning our current linebackers. I think a lot of folks are kind of thinking, all right, well, maybe we've shored that up in some of the other moves the Bengals have made. I'm still kind of low based on what we saw last year. I don't feel the same growth that maybe some others around the league are feeling. Now, I don't know if the Bengals are going to sign a veteran to a 1-year deal. All that to say, I think linebacker is still one of our biggest needs. So if Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker from Texas Tech, falls to us in the second round, I think that's a pretty slam dunk pick, in my opinion. So you get Caleb Downs at 10 overall, then you get Jacob Rodriguez at pick 41. I think those are 2 solid picks for the Cincinnati Bengals. There's plenty of value left on the board there for the Bengals. Bunch of cornerbacks go off the board. Avion Terrell, Colton Hood, Cisse, Peter Woods, as mentioned, is already gone in round 1. A couple Georgia interior defensive linemen are going to drop away. And then we'll move ourselves on to round 3. And this is where, again, there's still some meat on the bone. And the Bengals still are going to have some needs that have to be addressed in round 3. So let's pick things up at pick 65. The Jets, all right, I guess I made a trade with the Colts. Caden Proctor, offensive tackle out of Alabama. The Browns, Akeem Mesidor out of Miami. That would have been a nice target for the Bengals. Some good edge depth here in round 3. That would have been great. This is interesting, though. They picked Falk in round 2, double dipping on edge with Myles Garrett. I don't know if I'm buying the premise of this mock draft, but I'll roll with it. Mesidor off the table. Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana gone to the Lions. No impact really on the Bengals board. Denzel Boston from Washington to the Vikings. So offensive tackle, edge, wide receiver. Oregon linebacker, Bryce Boddicker to the Panthers. Pick 69, Cowboys take TJ Parker, edge out of Clemson. And then Josiah Trotter, linebacker from Missouri to the Steelers. So I'm feeling a little bit better because you pick up kind of secondary depth, Jacob Rodriguez to shore up that linebacker spot a little bit. Okay, so Cissé's still here. I thought maybe the draft system was telling me Cissé was still gone. I like Brandon Cissé here, still available at pick 72. Gridiron Grading likes this pick, not the best, but a physical cornerback could certainly help. And remember, the Bengals, they're eyeing both potentially having to sign Turner and Dax Hill. This is a great bit of value going safety into cornerback or into linebacker into cornerback. I would like Christian Miller, defensive tackle out of Georgia, still available. We have to live in a world where Dexter Lawrence does not go to the Cincinnati Bengals, so that's still a need. Where TJ Slayton and Chris Jenkins are your starting defensive tackles. Grayson Holton, defensive tackle from Oklahoma, still there, and Keontae Scott, cornerback from Miami. Would be some of the big targets here for the Bengals in round number 3. I think I'm going to go Brandon Cissé, just to keep things moving here. I think a very solid cornerback pick. Again, you have studs in DJ Turner and Dax Hill. You need someone who can rotate in. And you also have Caleb Downs from round 1, so you need someone who can just play in those certain sets, who's not going to blow up the play every time they're on the field. So round 4, I would love if somehow one of these defensive tackles falls to us. If not, I'm going to have some FOMO and maybe feel like we should have gone with Christian Miller in round 3. But we'll see how the board unfolds. Now as we move into round 4, I may be feeling like we could have gone defensive tackle with one of the earlier picks. But the Jets going guard at 97. Safety to the Cardinals. Running back to the Titans. Giants taking an offensive tackle. Browns going cornerback. Defensive tackle over to the Commanders. That would have been nice. Zion Young, edge, Missouri. Grayson Holton to the Chiefs at 104. Dolphins grab Keontae Scott. Max Clare, a tight end out of Ohio State, over to the Patriots. Darnell Jackson Jr., defensive tackle, over to the Seahawks at 107. Steelers grabbing cornerback at 109. The Eagles taking a linebacker just before that at 108. So who do the Bengals have? Oh, man. So in this scenario, the software is saying Golday from Cincinnati is still around, but we just took Rodriguez in round 2. Are you double dipping again at linebacker? Chris McClellan, defensive tackle out of Missouri. Probably the pick here. Malik Muhammad, cornerback, no. Devin Marshall, cornerback, no. I love Jake Golday. Sentimental pick for sure for the Bengals, but if you're going Jacob Rodriguez in round 2, I don't think you can double dip again at linebacker after double dipping on linebacker last year. So I think the pick here has to be Chris McClellan. Defensive tackle out of Missouri. This guy's huge, 6'3", about 300 pounds. 6 sacks in 2025, alongside 48 tackles. And they're still interior defensive line concern. Josh Allen, Jonathan Allen, excuse me, not Josh Allen. I would love to have Josh Allen. No, I wouldn't. I love Joe Burrow. Jonathan Allen, didn't mention before it, interior defensive line. Not the long-term solution there. But I think McClellan is probably the pick here at round 4 for the Cincinnati Bengals. So the final board for the Bengals, round 1 through 4, pick 10 rather, round 1, Caleb Downs, safety out of Ohio State. Round 2, pick number 41, Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker out of Texas Tech. Brandon Cisse, cornerback out of South Carolina with the 72nd pick overall in round 3. Chris McClellan, defensive tackle out of Missouri in round 4. So, I think Downs is the best player available type argument. Rodriguez can anchor that defense in the secondary as a linebacker. Cisse, you start to think about that cornerback succession a little bit. McClellan, if that player can develop, I think you've got a real talented lineup there. Honestly, I think this is a pretty decent draft. If this is the Bengals, the way their board opens up, I think it's okay. Looking back, you can maybe go McCoy or Delane. I think maybe you said Delane was gone. Maybe you can go Jermod McCoy in the first round. Linebacker. I mean, because safety feels sort of like a luxury, but Downs is such a transformative player. So if I'm going back, if I had to change, I might go Jermod McCoy first round, Jacob Rodriguez. Who was there in round 3? Maybe then Christian Miller, defensive tackle in round 3 instead of Cisse, the cornerback. And then round 4, then you pick Golday, linebacker out of... Oh, but then that's a double dip at linebacker. Still might feel better about that. Not sure. But I like the way that this mock draft opened up. Any mock draft where I'm getting Caleb Downs and Jacob Rodriguez as a 1-2 punch is a mock draft that is good with me. We're going to talk about these players a little bit more in depth this week. I think we got to look at Caleb Downs, why that might be a good target, why it might not be a good target for the Cincinnati Bengals. Is Jacob Rodriguez a legitimate option in round 2? Is defensive tackle still a need for the Bengals? I've been harping on it. Is Dexter Lawrence going to come in and fill the need? Who knows? All that and more are going to be discussed this week on Bengals Daily, part of the Fan Arch Podcast Network. My name is Dave Olson. You can find me on X or Twitter at Dolson Live, talking about the Bengals and video games and all that sort of fun stuff. And we'll be talking about the Bengals right here on Bengals Daily. I'll see you next time, and Hoo Day.